Many thanks for joining me on the news. Putin came right together in Oris limousine. China's Coast Guard accused of piracy in South China Sea. Hezbollah leader threatened Cyprus amid Israel tension. Putin in Vietnam seeks support amid Western isolation. And in Ecuador, nationwide blackout leaves 17 million in the dark. On Wednesday, Vladimir Putin, Russian president, and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un went for a spin in an Urus limousine, taking turns at the wheel of the Russian-built car. The carefully staged public relations exercise was an opportunity to display their close working relationship and their ease in each other's company as Putin made his first visit to Pyongyang in 24 years. The drive took place after the two leaders signed a deal that included a mutual defense promise, one of Russia's most major steps in the Asia-Pacific in years, and that Kim said resulted to an alliance. Footages released showed Putin jumping behind the wheel of the Urus, the model of his official presidential car back home in Russia. Kim was seen grinning in the passenger seat while they drove around a park with the two men, then swapping seats. Early on Wednesday, one of Putin's aides said the Russian leader had presented Kim with an Urus as a gift. It will be his second Russian-made limousine. Reports from North Korea in March said Putin had taken his first ride in an Urus after Putin gave him one of the cars in February. South Korea's Ministry of Unification said it had assessed that the gift of the Urus was a violation of United Nations sanctions over North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Kim is thought to have a large collection of luxury cars, including models by Maybach, Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royce that have been smuggled into the country in the breach of the sanctions. The Philippines has accused the China Coast Guard of acting like pirates, saying personnel armed with knives and spears boarded with resupply vessels as second Thomas show in the newest conflict in the disputed South China Sea. The incident took place on June 17th as Filipino soldiers attempted to resupply sailors stationed on the Sierra Madre, which Manila grounded on the reef in 1999. Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, General Romeo Brona, said the Philippines said one of their sailors was badly wounded and the boats were destroyed. Brona said the Coast Guard had acted like pirates. The situation at Second Thomas Shoal, which lies within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone EEZ, around 195 kilometers, 121 miles from the western Philippine island of Palawan, has become progressively tense in recent months, with China trying to disrupt the Philippines' regular missions to the Sierra Madre. Beijing denied its personnel acted inappropriately. The law enforcement action taken by China Coast Guard on the scene was professional and restrained, spokesman Li Jian said at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday, adding that they were trying to stop a resupply mission that was illegal. Lin accused the Philippines of sending construction material and even weapons and ammunition to the rusting ship. China claims almost the whole South China Sea under its so-called Nine-Dash Line has continued to build artificial islands and military outposts on outcrops and reefs despite an international tribunal ruling its claim to have no legal basis in 2016. Now on Wednesday, the leader of the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah threatened to aim the European island of Cyprus if war breaks out between Israel and Lebanon. Cyprus will be part of this war too if it opens its airports and bases to Israeli forces, Hassan Nasrallah said in an address that came just a day after Israel warned the powerful Iran-backed militant group that a prospect of all-out war was getting very close. The comments by the Hezbollah leader are the first time he has threatened Cyprus, a member of the European Union that lies in the Mediterranean Sea, roughly 125 miles, 200 kilometers from Lebanon, and which has held joint military drills with Israel since 2014 and as recently as last year. Nasrallah's threat came as part of a fiery reaction to Israel's warning that saw him boast of his group's growing capabilities and threatening to shake the pillars of Israel if a war were to be imposed on Lebanon. Tensions between Hezbollah and Israel have been increasing since the October 7th Hamas attacks and the ensuing military campaign by the Israel Defense Forces in Gaza. In recent weeks, the intensity of cross-border attacks between the two has increased, raising concerns over the prospect of a full-blown war. These prospects took a turn for the worse on Tuesday when Hezbollah flaunted a 9-minute video filmed by a drone showing civilian and military locations in and around one of Israel's largest cities, Haifa. The video triggered Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz to caution of an all-out war in which Hezbollah will be destroyed and Lebanon severely beaten. On Wednesday, Nasrallah celebrated the video as evidence of its increasing ability to gather intelligence. We have long hours of footage of Haifa, of the outskirts of Haifa, and what comes after Haifa. And after Haifa, Nasrallah said in an upper reference to a Hezbollah slogan from the 2006 war with Israel when the group's rockets hit Haifa for the first time. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulides, in response to the threat by Nasrallah, said the island was in no way involved in the war conflicts. Vladimir Putin, Russian leader, arrived in the Vietnamese capital Hanoi on Wednesday, fresh from a sporadic meeting in North Korea with counterpart Kim Jong-un, in which the two autocrats agreed a fresh strategic partnership driven by Moscow's need for weapons for its war in Ukraine. Considered a pariah by the West, Putin is looking to improve economic relations with friendly countries and show that Western isolation is not having an effect. Communist-run Vietnam appears to be a neutral choice with its foreign policy of non-alignment and close historical ties to Moscow, and a few countries can successfully host the leaders of the United States, China and Russia with such fanfares as Vietnam. Putin's two-day visit to Vietnam has irritated the United States, with a spokesperson for the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi reportedly criticizing the journey, saying no country should give Putin a platform to promote his war of aggression and otherwise allow him to normalize his atrocities, according to report. According to more reports citing the Kremlin, the Russian leader is set to meet with Vietnamese leadership, including Communist Party General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong and new President To Lam. Much like his visit to Pyongyang, Putin's trip to Hanoi could signal deepening relations between the two nations as the Russian leader looks to gather solid support amid international sanctions over his grinding war in Ukraine. According to the Kremlin, ahead of the visit, Putin thanked Vietnam for its balanced position on Russia's war in Ukraine in an article for the Vietnamese Communist parties. Vietnam's ambassador to Russia, Dang Minh Khoi, said, according to reports, that a state visit will strengthen Hanoi-Moscow ties and be an opportunity for the leaders of the two countries to discuss and propose concrete steps to boost bilateral trade and economic cooperation, reports said. A joint statement is anticipated to be adopted and numerous agreements announced on cooperation in sectors including trade and economic, scientific, technological and humanitarian areas, according to Russian presidential foreign policy aide Yuri Ashikov, reports say. Moving forward, on Wednesday, Ecuador was hit with an hours-long nationwide blackout that left the South American nation 17 million people without power. Authorities said the blackout, which affected hospitals, homes, and a major subway system, was caused by maintenance and transmission issues in the country's electoral system. The outages we had today were due to a lack of investment in maintenance, new electrical transmission, and the protection of the electrical transmission infrastructure, Public Infrastructure Minister Roberto Luque said on Wednesday. As of Wednesday night, energy had been restored in 95% of the country, according to the government. Ecuador has been battling with an energy crisis for years. The news saw Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa declare an energy emergency in April and order 8-hour nationwide power cuts amid a drought that affected power generation. In the capital city of Quito, reports said 2 hospitals, including a children's medical center, lost power during the blackouts. Both hospitals were able to depend on electricity from their generators shortly after the cut started. In the nation's largest city of Guayaquil, the blackout also briefly affected 2 other hospitals. The power was cut, but we have our generators, Dr. Luis Vernaza said from the hospital said. Gwangyeguil residents faced the outage amid 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 32 degrees Celsius heat. Service was interrupted on Quito's subway system due to the blackouts, with the capital's mayor Pablo Munoz saying the outage was so significant it had affected the subway despite it using an isolated electrical system. Infrastructure Minister Luke said the blackouts could have been avoided had Ecuador carried out an investment plan to safeguard the infrastructure in both generating power and the transmission after a similar power outage took place in 2004. Wednesday's blackout is not connected to the country's energy crunch from last April, according to Luke. On more stories, hundreds of Hajj pilgrims die in 120 degree Fahrenheit Mecca heat. Hundreds of people have died and numerous have been treated for heat stroke while performing the annual Muslim Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca amid severe temperatures of up to 49 degrees Celsius, that's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Some 165 Indonesians are among the dead, report said, citing the country's Consulate General's Hajj Management Office in Saudi Arabia. Additionally, at least 41 Jordanians, 35 Tunisians and 11 Iranians have died, according to authorities in each country. According to reports from the Iranian Red Crescent on Wednesday, a further 22 Jordanians are missing and 26 Iranians have been hospitalized. Some of the Iranians died due to heat stroke while others had underlying conditions, the Iranian Red Crescent said. The death toll is likely to increase as Saudi Arabia and Egypt have yet to release official figures. Additionally, the governments are only aware of pilgrims who have registered and traveled to Mecca as part of their country's quota. More deaths are feared among unregistered pilgrims. On Monday, the Saudi government said over 2,700 people had been treated for heat stroke. Meanwhile, hundreds of people have taken to social media to post about their loved ones being unaccounted for. Over 1.8 million people are taking part in this year's Hajj, one of the world's largest religious gatherings, according to the Saudi General Authority for Statistics. While deaths among pilgrims are not uncommon, there were more than 200 last year. This year's gathering is being held amid particularly high temperatures. Hajj season changes every year according to the Islamic calendar, and this year it fell in June, one of the hottest months in the kingdom. Hajj officials have asked pilgrims to carry umbrellas and stay hydrated amidst the harsh conditions, while the Saudi army has deployed over 1,600 personnel with medical units specifically for heat stroke and 30 rapid response teams. Another 5,000 health and first aid volunteers are taking part as well. In African scenes and on politics, Ramaphosa pledges new era for South Africa. On Wednesday, in a ceremony in the administrative capital, Pretoria, Cyril Ramaphosa was sworn in for a second full term as South Africa's president. His inauguration as head of a multi-party government comes just 3 weeks after elections in which his African National Congress ANC failed to secure a majority for the first time since the end of apartheid. The party subsequently made a deal with its longtime rival, the Opposition Democratic Alliance, and other parties to form a coalition government. The voters of South Africa did not give any single party the full mandate to govern our country alone, he said during the inauguration. They have directed us to work together to address their plight and realize their aspirations. They have also been unequivocal in expressing their disappointment and disapproval of our performance in some of the areas in which we have failed them. Addressing the nation, Ramaphosa, while addressing the nation, said the country had begun a new era and pledged that his government will work to improve basic living conditions for all citizens. He said people wanted to have enough food, decent homes, clean water, affordable and uninterrupted electricity supply, good care for the sick and elderly, quality schools and other basic services. While Ramaphosa's words were meant to reassure an already economically strained population, the new administration could prove difficult to lead. It is made up of parties that are ideologically opposed and do not see eye to eye on how to address the country's many challenges. Affirming his commitment to work with all parties represented in the government of national unity, Ramaphosa warned that unless it addressed deep inequalities, the country could become unstable. Ramaphosa's next task is to appoint a cabinet. This will likely involve complex negotiations with the various parties making up the coalition. The present ministers ceased to be ministers the moment Ramaphosa took his oath, but in the interim, government departments will continue functioning under the leadership of the Directors General. There is no deadline for him to name a cabinet under South African law. In part 2, I'll bring you more stories from Nigeria. Just stay with us after this break. You're welcome back. Now, Rivers plans parallel secretariats. Police bar caretaker chairman Siminalayi Fubara, Rivers State Governor, has said 23 local government councils in the state will operate from alternative secretariats following Tuesday's closing of the councils by the police. On Wednesday, the governor, who said this after swearing in the 23 local government caretaker committee chairman in Port Harcourt, the state capital, said they could operate from anywhere. Fubara stated this as the police stopped the freshly inaugurated caretaker chairman from accessing the offices in all 23 local government headquarters. The secretariats were barricaded with police patrol vans manned by armed policemen. On Tuesday, the State Police Command had announced that it had taken over all the local government council headquarters to forestall further bloodshed and to prevent a breakdown of law and order. A policeman and a member of a local security outfit were killed during a clash between supporters of the governor and his predecessor, the Federal Capital Territory Minister Nyesom Wike, at Ebere Umuma in the Umuma local government area of the state on Tuesday. Since late last year, Fubara and his predecessor have been involved in a bitter disagreement. The conflict had led to the bombing of the State House of Assembly last year, factionalized the House, while the governor survived an impeachment by Martin Amaewhule, led 27 lawmakers of the House loyal to the FCT minister. The crisis heightened on Tuesday when youths loyal to the governor dislodged some chairmen loyal to Wike after the expiration of their tenure. On Monday, the 3-year tenure of the 23 chairmen expired, but they had promised to remain in office, citing the Local Government Amendment Law 2024 made by the Martin Amaewhule-led House of Assembly. The law, by the 27 lawmakers loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Wike, empowers them to remain in office for 6 months due to the failure of Fubara to conduct local government elections. And finally, on the news, Kanu seeks out-of-court settlement in terrorism case. On Wednesday, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, showed his interest in exploring an out-of-court settlement in the alleged terrorism charge preferred against him by the federal government. Aloy Ijemako, Kanu's led counsel, told Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court, Abuja, upon resumed trial in the matter. Ejimako told the court that he had deliberated the matter with the lawyer of the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF, Chief Adegboyega Owomolo San, on the last adjourned date, but Owomolo said though Ejimako had a discussion with him on the issue, the senior lawyer said he bluntly told him to approach the AGF, who had the power to initiate the idea. According to him, I have not been instructed or authorized to do so. Earlier, when the matter was called, Owomolo told the court that the matter was scheduled for trial. He said he was prepared to proceed as the witnesses were in court. Ejimako then informed the court that he had 2 applications before the court. The law said one was from 49 applications seeking the committal of the Director General of the Department of State Service, DSS, to prison for alleged disobedience to court orders, and the second was the application challenging the jurisdiction of the court. He said the DSS had not fully obeyed the orders of the court as their visit to Kanu was still being bugged. However, Ejimako said in the last visit to Kanu on Monday, there was considerable improvement in the way they were treated by the security agency. He said he and his colleagues were granted access to the facilities and they were given papers to take notes. But the lawyer insisted that the service had not obeyed the order directing them to give Kanu a safe room to meet with his lawyers. A recap of major stories says Putin came right together in Oris limousine. China's Coast Guard accused of piracy in South China Sea. Hezbollah leader threatens Cyprus amid Israel tension. Putin in Vietnam seeks support amid Western isolation. And Ecuador says nationwide blackout leaves 17 million in the dark. And that's all on the news. Enjoy the rest of your day.